What's going on, guys? Welcome to Intro to ISAC. Now, this one's going to be a lot of information, but not a lot of actually hands-on doing. So just hang on for this one because it is a little bit more dry than some of the ones we do. But I definitely think this is important for you guys just to understand and be able to navigate around in these type of ISACs. Now, if you guys are enjoying the Cyber Defense Lab, make sure you like and subscribe. It helps out a ton. We're almost to, I think, 700 now, so we're almost on our road to 1,000. And I'm thinking once we start getting a little bit bigger, we're going to do some of the giveaways we're going to do are probably going to be like certification codes, so that way SEC Plus vouchers and things like that. I think it's a little bit more of a useful giveaway than just a keylogger and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and hop in here. Again, thank you. Shout out to all the Patreon members. That's growing quite a bit, so I really appreciate it. And we are still getting the Pentest Plus certification course out there. It's almost completed. I just have to upload it. I'm not uploading it. I'm uploading it one at a time, so that way you can follow along and take it all in. But here we go. So what is an ISAC? ISAC, Information Sharing and Analysis Centers. So there's a bunch of these, so you may have heard of them, you may have not, but there's a ton of these around there. But what they do really is they kind of share information that the community provides. So in a sense, so like a lot of them here you can see they obtain threat intelligence, indicators of compromise, that type of thing. What that all includes, and they're going to cover it here, is we're looking for basic terminology. So these are the people, or the groups, I should say, companies that track like APTs and look at what are these large scale attacks that are being sent around the world doing. They're not going to usually track like little Joe Schmo 13-year-old kid in his basement attacks some website, and it's like a 20-year-old website that he defaced. Like, it's a one-time attack. They're probably not going to really track that because someone has to report this, right? So that company's probably not reporting that to an ISAC, but maybe they are. But keep in mind, this is going to be for larger scale attacks. But this is the terminology they want you to know beforehand. They want you to know what we've covered this stuff before, the basic terminology, but what an APT is, an advanced persistent threat, TTP, tactics, techniques, and procedures. TI is a new one, I think, that we haven't covered on here, but just threat intelligence. So it's an overarching term for collecting information on adversaries. And then cyber threat intelligence is just the same thing, but focuses on cyber. And indicators of compromise. Now, I know I read through that fast, but you guys can read through it if you want. I am going to talk about them, so I'm not really that worried about you guys just memorizing that. Okay, so threat intelligence, also known as TI and CTI for cyber threat intelligence. So what is it? Simple. It's covering information that is beneficial to the cyber community based on attacks. So what does that mean? So for instance, here you go. There's APT groups. That's a try-hack me room. But the point is, so let's say an APT attacks tomorrow, right? And it's a new APT. So it's a new group that we've never seen before. Someone may name it APT 50, right? Let's just make up a number. So if they name it that, it gets reported. When it gets reported, these ISACs now have a name to put on this group. So APT 50. So when that happens, now they're going to start looking at, okay, what did they do? What are the attacks they've done? What are some indicators of compromise that they've done? Meaning, are they using phishing emails? Are they using, some infrastructure vulnerability that we don't know about yet? Is there a network vulnerability we don't know about yet? And they're going to start analyzing every little thing they do, and they're uploading this information as they're getting it. So the more people that report APT 50, the one that we just created, the more information they can get because they can start gathering those resources. They're going to try and find the malware that they ran and run it in a sandbox and investigate what is it doing. Now, there's whole organizations that do this, and it's thank God they do it because it allows companies to then buy your product, for instance, if you're an ISAC, right? And they don't have to necessarily freak out when a new attack comes out because the ISAC already is doing the research and uploading what's happening in real time and also showing you how to prevent it. So they may not say, do this, this, and this, and they'll prevent it, but they might say, be careful, there's a big spear phishing attack happening. So, make sure your high ups in your company are aware of this. They may say, hey, port 55 is being used a lot right now for this attack. So just monitor that. Just be careful of it. So stuff like that where it helps out tremendously. Now, there are 3 types of threat intelligence. There's strategic. This is assists senior management. So for instance, we'll use the same example for spear phishing campaigns. So it says here, this specifically handles the security budget and strategies. So what this is, let's say there's a uptick in spear phishing campaign by different APTs, right? Well, this means that the upper senior management might start making decisions saying, hey, let's take some of our budget and let's focus it on phishing campaigns, meaning let's start training our members let's build a training campaign. Let's start sending out fake phishing emails, which we may have to buy another domain to do to make it look legit. You probably don't have to, but there's tools out there that can do it for you. But the point is, they might start gearing their strategy security-wise and their budget towards that. And when they do that, that's all based on strategic threat intelligence. Now, tactical, this interacts with the tactics, techniques, and procedures and attack models to identify adversary attack patterns. So let's say an attacker does a phishing campaign. They always do this phishing campaign, right? And that's how they get in. And then as soon as they get in, they go straight for the domain controller and try to create a new admin account, right? Okay, well, now we have tactical information on what their goal looks like. What as soon as they gain entry, what do they try to do? So we know their techniques. Now, the reason this is important is because let's say we get a new connection on our network and we don't think much of it because we're getting connections all the time. And then the first thing they do is try to contact our domain controller, right? Well, we might look right into that, right? We might say, hey, whoa, what's happening here? We know that this is a tactic of an APT. We need to really pay attention to that. So it helps gear where you're looking, what you're looking for. Now, interacting with IOCs, indicators of compromise, and how the adversary operationalized. What's that mean? So this is where you're really getting down in the nitty gritty. So indicator of compromise might be, hey, there's an IP address out here that we know is malicious and we know it's associated with APT 50. And so anytime you see that IP address, instantly red flag, something is going on. That's an indicator of compromise. It indicates that there might be a compromise. Okay. All right. So now what are ISACs? We covered that. These are some of the ones that they cover Alien Vault in this. But basically they're going to focus on Alien Vault and Threat Connect. Now there's more ISACs out there. CrowdStrike's I don't know if it's considered technically an ISAC, but it is a huge one out there. The reason I don't think it's considered an ISAC is because I think they probably just buy this information from an ISAC. But if you ever use CrowdStrike, which a lot of people do, a lot of enterprise, they have ISAC information dashboards built in to their system. And I don't know why I'm going on about CrowdStrike. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just really like CrowdStrike. But what it is, here's Threat Connect, creating a dashboard, blah, blah, blah. So here's this must be an old box. I've never really messed with this one. But you can see here, sign up for a free Threat Connect account here. But then right after it, Threat Connect has gone through a rebranding and no longer offers free accounts. So don't go and try and create an account. I don't know why they even left that word in there. If they had the time to take this note and put it in there, just take that out. But whatever. I'm rambling now. So here's what a dashboard will look like. Now, a lot of companies have dashboards like this, but Nessus, these things, they'll have these dashboards too that you can add. But usually, like I said, this is probably not their information. They're probably getting it from an ISAC. Okay, so here, this is what it'd look like. It'll tell you. Now, you can change these dashboards to whatever you want, but you can see like this says latest intelligence. You might not want latest because there might be a bunch of stuff going on. You might want the most popular because those are things that you're going to be looking at. False positives, that's a big one. Now, why is a false positive a big deal on these? So let's say you're finding new indicators of compromise. A lot of companies might falsely report this, and it's not necessarily their fault. Some companies may do this intentionally to mislead, but it's not necessarily their fault because what happens is inexperienced analysts sometimes will find something that they go, oh, this is malicious, this is a big deal. And it might not be. It might be something totally legit. It might be something that just looks bad, whatever. And before they do the full investigation and start diving into it, they might go, we got to report this because we don't want everyone to, get hit with this, and then find out it's totally legit. Now, that doesn't mean that's a bad analyst. It's a bad person, whatever. It happens a lot. It's not a big deal, but they are going to tell you what companies are reporting a lot of false positives so that you can kind of take what they say with a grain of salt, which is a really good feature, I think, that people don't think about. Okay, so you can see top sources by observation. So you can see there's different sources here, and you can see how many times people have reported it and the observed indicators. So you could then click on this and you could navigate into it and see more about it. All right, latest intelligence. You can see here this is going to be what's, being reported in the last, whatever day or whatever when this came out. This is, like it said, if you want to stay on top of the newest rising threats. That doesn't necessarily mean that these are going to be reported a lot. It just means that these are getting reported in real time. Okay, we talked about the false positives, top tags. So this is a big one. So like here, Emotet, if you guys don't know, is malware. ELF are just executables for Linux. So you can see these are the tags that you can put. So let's say you have a totally 100% Linux environment. You're probably going to be looking for ELF files because you need to know, hey, do I have any of these ELF files on my systems? Because that's a big deal if I do. You can tell malware is going to be a big one because you can search. It's just like YouTube, right? YouTube uses tags. So if you search for malware, what do you think you're going to get? Every video with a tag of malware. Same thing here. If you search for malware, you're going to get 88,000 hits of a tagged malware. So tags are important, especially in these type of environments. Indicator breakdown, a breakdown of all their intelligence combined. So this is just a little bit more high level, but you can see they've got 51% of file indicators, 25% URL indicators, boom, boom, boom. So you can see that's just high level, just kind of giving you basic information. And then custom dashboards. This is where you can really narrow it down. You can see here, they have actual IPs here, which is a little bit more of more information than what the default dashboards gave you and stuff like that. The owner, so who's reporting it, that type of stuff. We're not going to dive too deep into that. You guys can look at them if you want, but you can see Threat Connect can go far beyond this. So a normal ISAC's just gathering this information, taking it in, analyzing it, and providing information that you can digest and provide to your company. Now, they can provide you with incident response playbooks. That's huge. That means they can take it a step further, and it probably costs more, but they can say, hey, you found this indicator of compromise on your system. We can tell you how to stop it, how to prevent it in the future. So they can keep going deeper into it and help you. And you'll see this with a lot of IT companies. They'll say, hey, we can do this for you. And you're like, perfect, that's what I need. And then go, but we can also do this for another $100,000 or whatever, right? So it's kind of a slippery slope because you got to weigh the benefits and the pros and cons. Is it worth the money to you to have someone do it for you, or do you think you can handle it? Okay, this is Open Threat Exchange. So this is when our AT&T cybersecurity Alien Vault account, blah, blah, blah. So it's called Alien Vault, but it's from AT&T. So this is a very big one too. And you can see they call their reports pulses. So when, let's say you report an indicator of compromise, you say, hey, on this day, IP address, boom, 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 sent a phishing email and whatever, and here's the hash of the email. Those are indicators of compromise. The hash shows, people can look for that hash when they're putting it in their dashboards and stuff like that. Those are called pulses for Open Threat. Okay, so you guys can read that. It's just called pulses. That's the big deal. So breaking down a pulse, here you go. So the pulse description, that's a description of the attack, of who's doing it, what's going on, so on and so forth. You can see they have tags here. So you can, if someone searched Docker, shell scripts, whatever, this would pop up So it helps you kind of look through and find it. You can tell just by the name that it's going to be a crypto miner probably. And so you can see who discovered it. Cisco Talos recently discovered cryptocurrency botnet attack. Okay. Here's the attack IDs. So these are similar attacks that have been reported that use similar or the same type of techniques. Things like that. You can see they use like scheduled tasks. Boom, boom, boom. So this is that's just the description, very basic. Here's something that's really cool. You can see indicators of compromise. They have 50. So you can see they have 13,256 hashes, 18 URLs, 5 IPs. So these are all indicators of compromise that you can go, hey, we don't know if this is serious. Let's check our systems for it. And you go straight to your network and you start looking. Has anyone went to these URLs? Do any of these IP addresses have any connections with our company? Anything like that, and start diving in and trying to figure out if these indicators of compromise relate to you. Okay. Indicators are probably the most important section of the entire pulse. True. So you can see here's the hash. So you take that hash. Now, they've ran it in a sandbox and told you, it's not good, probably, right? So you can take that hash and you can search your entire network or put it in a Nessus scanner. You could go to a Nessus scanner and say, search for this hash on files, right? It's going to take a while, but they'll come back and say, we found this exact file hash right here on this machine. Well, that's malicious file. You need to get that thing out of here because that's probably mining crypto on your network, and it's going to keep trying to spread. Now, Yara, we covered Yara in the last video. Yara rules or Yara detections is really good because they're going to say, hey, this is not only are they going to say, hey, here's the name of it, whatever, this is what they found. For the Yara, they're going to give you the rule, and they're going to say, run Yara on your machine or whatever tool you use that runs Yara. Put this rule in there, and you will pop up with the exact, indicator of compromise that Yara detected on our system, and it helps you instantly detect it, again, very similarly to just putting the hash in or whatever. Okay, finding pulses based on malware. So this is, again, high level because you can search specifically if you know the number or the name of it. So, for instance, if you want to search the WannaCry, we know that has a name. So we could search that, and it's going to use the tags and the name to find it. And then it's going to tell you, look how many times it's been reported and, what's been reported. So, like, for instance, this one, the VBS love letter creates an executable. That was reported 62 times, but someone found it with recon fingerprint 300 times, right? So some people, it gets to different stages before they detect it, and then they send it off, right? So that's kind of why there's different types of, reports. So for instance, the no lookup communication, they found that 53 times. That's a different stage in the malware than someone that noticed, hey, it's creating an executable. So that's why. So now the menu for the malware, blah, 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 we did that. So here's something really cool. So this is something that a lot of software does nowadays, but this is a really good feature. So you can see here, they ran the script and boom, here's what's happening. So once that script gets ran or the executable, it starts doing this. It starts sending out the network ICMP packets. It starts doing the JavaScript. It starts doing, the recon fingerprint. It's treeing off and opening processes and doing things. So, but you can see it all stems from this executable. So it gives you a breakdown, a visual to see what you're actually looking at, which is a huge thing, I think. Okay. So finding pulses based on adversaries. So you can actually look for the pulse or, reports based on APTs. That's pretty simple, pretty easy. If you know, hey, I'm a bank, and North Korea likes to hack banks, and North Korea's APT is APT 45. I'm just making these numbers up, so don't hold me to that. That. You can say, hey, let's look up APT 45 because North Korea is actively attacking banks. I'm a bank. I need to be worried about them. That type of stuff. Finding pulses based on industry. Again, if you're a bank, you can search by finance and see what attacks are happening on banks currently. Okay, creating IOCs. So what this is you found, so we're not going to walk through this exact step, but we are going to walk through the next one. So let's say here you found server.exe and it's a malicious file. You found that. Now, how do I create indicators of compromise for other people to find on their systems? Well, there's a couple ways. One, you can run it in a sandbox, see what it does. Does it send out connections to different IPs? And then those IPs will be indicators of compromise that you can report. The other thing you can do here is you can get the MD5 hash of the file, send that up. That way people can start looking in their network for the MD5 hash. The file size, those are indicators of compromise, because if a file named server comes in, you might not think anything of it. That might be like whatever. But if a file named server comes in with this exact byte count, then okay, we have something that we can actually indicates that, hey, this might be the file that's malicious. So they're telling you how to create that. You can use strings. That's what Yara uses typically. So is there unique strings in there that wouldn't be found in other software? You can start using that. And then you create the pulses from those. So you'd go in here, create the pulse, and you'd actually submit it with the indicators of compromise, which would be that here's the different hashes, the file type, the size of the file, all that stuff. And then when someone is looking, they go, hey, I report this. They can say, oh, someone else found it too. This is a bigger problem, and people can start connecting the dots. So it's a way, ISACs are just a way for everybody to get together, share information, and help the community as a whole. It's community driven 100%. Now, one thing I will say is don't go in here and create a pulse based on this box, because that'd be a false pulse. We don't want to create pulses just to create them. Only if you have done a full investigation. Okay, so here we go. We're going to have to actually go through, go up here, show split view, and we're going to start answering these questions. So this is the attack box. I RDP'd into their Windows box that I started up, and here we go. I know this is small, but this is pretty simple stuff. So scenario 1, boom. They don't ask you any questions, really. They just ask you a little bit. But so you go to scenarios. It's under my documents in here, and we'll go to scenario 1 first, and you can see here's a file that they're giving us, and this is Windows 7, so it's very slow, we'll say that. Okay, so what is the name of the file from scenario 1? So this is a scenario. We have the malware or whatever, the executable, whatever it is, and here you go. There's the name of the file. Boom. What is the size of the file? So you just right-click properties. It's pretty simple, and you can see here's the size in bytes. That's what they're looking for. And then the size on the disk in bytes, that's what they're looking for. So you're just gathering information as much as you can about it for now and sending it off. All right, so now what is the MD5 hash? So they're just having us use these tools. You can see tools and win MD5. We run it. And win MD5 free is still a tool I use. So it's pretty good, pretty simple tool, really lightweight. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So you just go to the file, select open, and there it gives you the MD5 hash. And there you go. Now, it's going to ask you for the same exact thing from scenario 2. So I'm just going to do scenario 2 now. We go to scenario 2, cryptowall.bin, open, and there's the hash. And you can see it's right there. So we can exit MD5, minimize that. And you guys can dive into this a little bit more if you want. So scenario 2, click on it. Cryptowall.bin is the name. What is the size of the file? And then we'll go here. Properties again. And you see 246,272 bytes. And then 249,856 on disk. And then we just did the MD5 hash. So this is a very simple little lab they have you do, but it's kind of important to understand. They're showing you that these are the indicators that you're looking for. These are the things that you're going to report. Now, you'd want to get a little bit more than just the size and the name. That's not really going to help that many people. But if you get the size, the name, the hashes, as many hashes as you can get, if you can get, IP addresses that's reaching out to, all that stuff, everything you can get is better to report it that way. Either way, you're going to probably, if you report it, someone else is probably going to report it as well if it's an APT or something like that. So don't worry if you don't get everything, because just getting the information out there starts making people aware of it and starts letting people try to figure out how to stop it as well. So hopefully you guys liked it. This was just an informational box, really. Oh, and then I forgot to show you guys this. This is that page. You can go to it. They give you a click on. But we covered this already. But you can look at this one, the Docker miner that we looked at. But hopefully you guys are liking the content. The Cyber Defense Lab is a lot more educational and a lot less hands-on lab than the offensive so far. But we are going to keep going with it. I want to get this lab or this path done, and I also want you guys to be able to defend against these attackers, because attackers are getting smarter. Defenders have to get smarter as well. So hopefully you guys like the videos. I'm going to keep them coming. Make sure you check the Patreon, because the pen test path is coming, and that is a actual certification guide. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but that is a certification guide to Pen Test Plus. So thanks, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and have a great day.